Well, good afternoon, guys. On this, frankly, overcast May 24th. It's not the best day to be making videos, but I just had to anyways because it's finally spring in the mountains here, and I have a day off. So you can see all the nice plants that are blooming right now, such as a Galium aparine, growing all over the place here, like these long, thread-looking plants. Remember the family of Rubiaceae. I'm actually not sure if it's native or not. I've heard conflicting reports about it and read conflicting reports. So maybe it's not the nicest representative of flora, but we also have this fantastic Bromus tectorum, which actually is even worse. That's terrible because it's not native and very invasive. So maybe not the best representatives of plants here. Quercus gambellia isn't so bad though, so let's see what good plants we can find. And just like that, we're now in a much more shaded habitat, dominated primarily by Abies concolor and Pseudotsuga menziesii, the white fir and Douglas fir respectively. Actually, it seems almost entirely to be dominated by white fir around here. They're all definitely white firs, although that tree up there is likely a Douglas fir. I'm going to try and... It's going to be hard for you guys to tell. If you want to know how to tell the two apart, I've made a fantastic video on how to do that already, but otherwise, there's not a whole lot of plants here around here I can identify. I'm starting to remember why I don't come into the mountains too much to make videos. I just don't really know all that much about the plants in the higher elevations, and they're not quite in bloom yet also, but there are a few things notable we can see here. Of course, see the beautiful yellow blooms of Berberis repens, a plant I talk about constantly on the channel, but rarely ever get a capture in flower, so you can get a little bit closer. How lovely. Remember the family Berberis. Some people still put the plant in the genus Mahonia, but that's really kind of improper to do now. Not to mention, there's some other oddities, like these guys coming up right here in the rocks. I can't tell at all what they are, but I'd have to guess they seem like a member of the family Asteraceae. It's by the sort of spiraling leaves. Like, I don't know how to refer to them. It just sort of got to look to them. Maybe eventually we'll identify them. That's of course most likely Rosa woodsii, as long as it's a native rose, which it certainly appears to be. Or it could be Nucana. Again, it's kind of hard to tell. I used to know how to tell the two apart, but I forgot, and without flowers, I know it's not easy. So, whatever it is, definitely a native rose at least. Next got the Cornus, sericea, or again, because plant names change more often than you'd like, even scientific names. Cornus stolonifera, a cornusum in literature. Commonly known as the red osier dogwood, from its beautiful red branches, which you can see quite well here. But not a whole lot else that I can identify readily, unfortunately. Well, there's a few, but I just don't want to talk about them too much. I want to save it for plants I've actually haven't seen before or look more interesting, like, what is this guy? Oh my gosh, is that a Helianthus annuus or something like that? That's way too early for it to be blooming. I'm not sure. Obviously a member of the sunflower family, but I wish I could say what that is. I really got to study my plants a bit more. Well, it took me a second to find one, but here is an actually native wildflower. You have to go higher into the mountains to find. This vine right here is Clematis occidentalis, a native member of the family of Ranunculaceae. It is obviously toxic by that metric alone, but it is native, so it's a good plant. Clearly not in bloom yet. It produces these really nice purple flowers when it does. And yeah, it's just like most clematises. It's a twining vine, so it grows up on top of other plants with twining structures, which you can see here, which I broke off, but it was dead anyway, so it wasn't doing too much, to clean other plants and basically just get a leg up on them, get the best and most sunlight with as little energy expended into growing structures as possible. And yeah, it's got these opposite leaves, which you can see quite well here, with these almost like interpetiolar stipules. I'm not sure how to best pronounce that, but like the stipules that Rubiaceae has, where between two opposite leaves, the stipules grow out in sort of ring fashion like that, even though this plant is not closely related to anything Rubiaceae at all. In fact, Ranunculaceae isn't related to that many plant families at all. It's one of the most primitive of the eudicot families, as they're called, one of the major 8 groups of flowering plants. And many members of Ranunculaceae, as a result of that, have very primitive structures. These are ternate compound like this, and yeah, as you can see it from that short shoot, the vining structure grows. Well, it's a little hard to see there, but there you go. The twining structure comes just below the short shoot like that. So leaves up there. So yeah, very cool plant and a native one. Also right here we have this Sorbus scopulina, which is really a wildflower, more of a shrub with a showy inflorescence, which I like. Fun fact, if you use seek on it, it will say it's a non-native rowan for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, it just makes some goofy mistakes sometimes. Just gotta take it for what it is. And this is, I think, Prosartes tachycarpa, like a native Fairybell. Remember the family Liliaceae, I don't know much about them, but they are kind of cool looking and produce these white flowers. So yeah, there you go. Another nice, very early blooming wildflower here, found at all sorts of elevations, but notable for being found in the forest is Claytonia lanceolata, as the lance leaf, spring beauty, or something spring beauty, whatever you want to call it. It's a nice plant, but I'm pretty sure it's actually perennial despite being so tiny. So I know most Claytonias are perennial aside from Claytonia perfoliata and a few relatives. Typically have white flowers that look kind of like that with those little pink stripes. Way to show up, but some can be quite pink, like these ones over here. Really lovely plant. Have some species of crassula growing out there that's not quite blooming yet. Which I'm not sure which species that is. Probably Debile. Yeah, whatever. Lovely plants we got here. So you get higher up. So one of the problems with making videos in the forest like this is that there's quite a lot of problems, but one is that it's hard to identify trees, really, because you can't find the flowers. They're always at the top of the trees, and it's difficult to find a lot of other features to identify them by, so that's difficult. There's often less wildflowers growing in forests because it's shaded and dense, and there's lots of issues of lighting. Like, I tried making some videos in Lamington National Park, right in the rainforest, and the footage is almost unusable because I could barely identify anything, even though I thought I prepared pretty well. I probably could have prepared a lot better, but one thing that's important to know is that it's just that the lighting was so bad. I had to turn the ISO up to like 12,000, and it was starting to look really grainy and unappealing, and it still was quite dark. That's of course a particularly bad example because of just how overcast rainforests typically are, but even then it's just not good. And like even when it's not as sunny, it can sometimes be worse because you're going to be going into areas of overlapping, where you'll get like areas of light and dark in all your shots, so it's really a big problem for filming. So just keep that in mind about when I don't make videos in forests all the time. I'm now about 7,000 feet up and get a pretty good view of the Salt Lake Valley if I adjust the ISO. There we go. Anyways, let's talk about some more wildflowers. This is Senecio, I believe, Integerrimus. I don't totally know what species it is, but I'm about 70% confident that's what it is. I'll get a more solid identification later. I like that's covered in these very woolly, sparse hairs that are kind of cool looking because they're so long but so sparse. It's like it's going undergoing metal pattern baldness. I want to try some Rogaine Mr. Senecio. A lot of cool native Senecios in Utah. There's also this plant I've never properly observed before, and I'm sure I've seen it but just didn't think to give it time of day. This is Colinzia parviflora. Absolutely tiny plant. Can't be more than 2 inches tall or 50 millimeters, with flowers not more than like 3 or 4 millimeters across, or less than a 4-foot inch. Gotta be inclusive to everyone here. Anyways, it's got like 5 petals, although one of them is hidden and holds some of the reproductive parts. Not that we can get close enough to see. Let's see how close I can actually zoom in on. Wow. Sorry about that. But otherwise, yeah, very nice plant, member of Plantagenaceae. It does have irregular flowers. I mean, if one's hidden, it kind of has to have them like that. Yeah, very cool plant. I feel like if I was in charge of identifying plants and cataloging them in the West, I would have just totally overlooked that and on purpose and just like not even, it just assumed like, it's not worth naming. I mean, it's a cool plant, but I'm just kind of lazy like that. The scenery is really pretty right now, but there's just not a lot of stuff I can identify, especially stuff I can identify to a really confident level. Too many things are just starting to emerge and don't have any flowers yet, so it's really difficult. I really thought there'd be much more things I could be identifying right now. It's solidly spring in the valley, but it's just not quite here yet. And going higher up in elevation isn't helping at all. But I do want to find at least a couple more wildflowers to end the video on, so I'm going to keep going. Back into a more deciduous forest. Now we're on 7,300 feet. The classic Acer grandidentatum. And, well, I guess this is a cool plant I can talk about. Xenophis velatines. It's a member of Rhamnaceae that is evergreen. It's called snowbush commonly because of that, because it holds these leaves all year round. They're kind of a little thick and durable. Definitely got a really rugged texture to them. I quite like the plant, but yeah. There's that, and there's also the Prunus virginiana right here. Not a whole lot else. I guess you had a few conifers. Well, if the lack of flowering plants wasn't a sign to turn around yet, then this probably should be. I'm starting to find snow now. I want to check how high up we are. We are currently... okay, about 7,500 feet. Approximately like, I guess 2,300 meters. I gotta really get my meter conversion better. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, we're starting to find snow again. Sure you saw the patch back there. I was too busy looking at my phone. Really hoping I can find some more wildflowers. Just one that I haven't seen yet. That isn't Hydrophyllum capitatum. I just don't want to talk about that one today, because I've really done it way too much in my opinion. Oh, it's my lucky day. Oh, what is this? It's got to be some kind of ranunculus species. I wish I knew ranunculus is better. Ranunculus, otherwise known as buttercup, obviously member of the family Ranunculaceae. I want to try and identify this really quick. Alright, disregard whatever ranunculus species I was just talking about there, because I found this instead. This is Erythronium grandiflorum, which I can confidently say is a native plant. And a wildflower that blooms pretty early right here, so I feel confident cutting off the video now. Remember the family Liliaceae? Yeah, okay. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Dang, what produces this weird stuff? Is this like a rodent of some kind? I think it has to be. There's going to be some holes for ventilation. But I got no idea. I think I've noticed this before. I've just never actually considered what makes this kind of dirt pattern. But all right. Thanks for watching. See you next time.